Hello, my name is Todd Huffman. I'm a local entrepreneur, but before I did that, I was a neuroscientist. And I was a neuroscientist because I've been trying to understand consciousness. And if you've ever been on like Twitter or a social networking site and you've had this feeling of like, I was just part of a complex, dynamic process that somehow approached consciousness that emerged greater than what I was, you're right. And the brain is like that. The brain has 100 billion neurons, with each neuron has 7,000 followers. The data I show in this image, in the slides, come from these labs. And so if you're trying to image neurons, which are complex three-dimensional objects, you have to take pictures of them in 2 dimensions and trace them through into 3. And so the road to 2 dimensions starts in 3 dimensions. And so you have to make slices. And the first microscope I'm going to show you about is a knife edge scanning microscope, where you have a diamond edge knife, where you shine lasers through the back, up through the bevel of the knife, into the objective of the microscope, and you image continuously in a single line of pixels along the bevel of the knife. Slice, slice, slice. 300 megabytes of data per second. Gives you a lot of slices. And here you can see light coming through the back, tissue coming over the knife, coming up into the microscope. Do that a bunch of times. And so when you have all these slices, you can then trace the complex structures through in 3 dimensions. And so this is a screen grab of a reconstruction. The green lines are actually not neurons. This is the vasculature. These are the blood vessels that are feeding the neurons in the brain. In light gray are the actual cell bodies. These are not neurons also. This is the vasculature. This is a tiny chunk of mouse spinal column. You can't actually see the neurons in this picture because they're orders of magnitude smaller than the blood vessels that are feeding them. And if we zoom in and use a different dye, we can see this image where we have the blood vessels in red, kind of faded out. The cell bodies of the neurons are in green. And so we have the cell bodies as complex three-dimensional structures that are coming through to feed these green cell bodies. If we actually want to look at the connections between the neurons, we have to zoom in even closer. And so in purple is a great neuron where you can see the cell body, the dendrites, and the axons running around connecting to 7,000 other neurons of 100 billion. And so if we actually want to see all of the neurons, we have to move out of light microscopy, which I showed you in the last slide, and move to electron microscopy. This is the Atlam, which is built by my friend Ken Hayworth. All these images are his, which takes the brain and then spools it out onto a tape. I don't know how to explain this in 15 seconds, but these slices are 20 to 30 nanometers thick. And then once you have your brain spooled out onto a tape, you then use robots to put it onto disks. And then you can take these disks, and I actually want to bring up, I'm constantly humbled, though I can't explain in 15 seconds. He built the first revision of this in his garage. You spool the brain out onto a tape, you put it onto a disk, and then you image it. This is about a millimeter and a half wide slice of brain tissue. And you take a lot of these, because you spooled it onto a tape, you do it sequentially, you get 2 dimensions, and you turn it into 3. And once you have 3 dimensions, you can trace through. These are sequential slices of the same 3-dimensional object. Click, 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 click. And you build a 3D reconstruction of a portion of a neuron that's in the brain. The pixel size, so here's a millimeter and a half, zoom all the way through. Each yellow box is subsected out of that. The actual voxel size, so the pixel in 3 dimensions is voxels. The voxel size is 4 by 4 by 20 nanometers of this image. This is a brain at full resolution, arguably. And you should be totally overwhelmed by this picture. I am. Sometimes I watch videos of this, of the data, because you can fly through the data. And I have seen this. This is your mind. And it's totally overwhelming to watch videos of just the raw data coming through. And then at some point you go, holy shit, they just digitized that. And once you digitize it, then you can hit it with a lot of hammers. And so once you digitize it, you can start reconstructing. In the middle is actually a fully reconstructed of every neural process in that tiny chunk of neural tissue. The full reconstructions are totally useless because you can't see everything because it's one big giant block of spaghetti. And with regard to trying to reconstruct an entire human brain, I calculated a few different ways. Ken and David Merritt, whose name I didn't say earlier, they're maybe like 1/50,000th of the way done. But at this point, it's become an engineering problem where more people can hit it with their hammers, and we can try and reconstruct human brains in full resolution, trace all the 100 billion neurons with all their 7,000 followers to try and better understand consciousness.